In the corner of a luxurious villa, a group of strange men were resting on sofas surrounding a table. This was one of the western bases of the secret organization known as Cerberus. The villa was owned by one of its leaders, Misha the Lover. Her personal maid served tea for everyone before bowing and promptly left the room. And so, the meeting began. "I see, it appears that everything has been going smoothly," Yuki Kagurizaka said happily after hearing the report. "Everything was just like the boss predicted. I was starting to suspect that Laplace had failed." Haha, Laplace is always cautious. But he's not good with negotiations. Hey, hold on. I'm way better at that than you guys. Tyr and Footman were tacit under these circumstances, to which Laplace voiced his complaint. It wasn't actual complaining, but more like friendly banter between close friends. "Don't be mad. It's not that bad. I'm glad about the fact that you were all able to hold back when facing Leon," Kagali admitted. "Right. To be fair, I also prepared a mental note for myself in case you guys did lose control," added Yuki, smirking as he finished. If that were to really happen, they would need to see how things developed. At most, they would only lose a way to communicate with Demon Lord Leon. Now that they've decided to no longer operate among the Western nations, it was no longer that big an issue. "You're truly ruthless. By the way, did you have something planned when you let me tell Leon about the kids?" Laplace asked, sounding resigned. "No, there was nothing too significant behind that. To be honest, Leon's goal of gathering these incomplete summons was probably to expand his military force. On the other hand, I am concerned about whether or not he has some other intention," Yuki replied with a wry smile on his face. "So that's why you revealed the truth and told him about the 5 children under Demon Lord Rimura's protection. There's more to it than that. After all, what Leon did with those children is only based on our assumptions. By design, incomplete summons children would inevitably die. Demon Lord Rimura saved those kids and granted them the power of spirits. Leon didn't know about it. I'm more interested in what that guy will do now that he's learned about the existence of those children who are supposed to die soon." "I see. That is certainly intriguing. We can see the reason behind Leon's actions by simply observing his reaction." "That's true. After all, there haven't been that many clues, so we need a stimulant of some kind. Don't we now? But for the most part, I just did it out of curiosity. I'm always very mindful of details." After listening to Yuki's explanation, Kagali and Laplace both understood what he meant. Indeed, perhaps just as Yuki said, this was him erring on the side of caution. He wanted to explore Leon's intentions, but more importantly, the deliberate leaking of information had some significant meaning behind it. What if Demon Lord Leon decided to take action? Leon wouldn't go to war with Rimura for the sake of adding a mere 5 soldiers. The risk of antagonizing Rimura far outweighed the benefits of his attempt at increasing military strength. Leon wasn't stupid enough that he'd fail to realize this. Under normal circumstances, he would write off the loss of those kids, but if Leon took actions regardless of the cost, then they could come to the definite conclusion. Leon had some other motive. "But they're just a couple of kids. I don't think Demon Lord Leon will take any action," Kagali remarked. Laplace frowned. "Seriously? We even had to leak information about the war just so we could mention those kids. My nerves were killing me after he became suspicious. It took a lot of effort to work that out. Things would undoubtedly get interesting if Leon were to respond, but the probability of that happening was very low." Both Kagali and Laplace felt that Yuki's idea, while intriguing, would eventually fail. Seeing his companion's reaction, Yuki could only reply with a wry smile. "I told you guys it's my fault. If you guys didn't go in that direction, revealing the children's information would just seem unnatural. Also, if you revealed it from the start, with your acting skills." Yuki tried to play dumb. He didn't plan on finishing his sentence. Laplace and the others knew all too well themselves what he wanted to say. Tyr put it plainly for everyone. "Well, regretful, it's something that can't be helped. Footman's not good with making speeches, nor is his temper. Laplace's arrogance makes him suspicious. And since I was on my own, I couldn't pull it off without making any mistakes, no matter how hard I tried." Laplace was left dumbfounded, whereas Footman looked all pissed off. It was a pretty common sight. But to their surprise, Tyr followed up on her words, as if she had come up with something at the last minute. "Boss, you can call me paranoid, but there's something bugging me." "Oh, what is it?" "Here's the thing. When Footman was reciting the names of the merchandise Leon, what did Leon do? He kept asking about the names afterward. When Footman mentioned Kroba Hale, Leon asked back, 'Are you sure it is Kroba, not Chloe?' Even though he said it himself that the names didn't matter. That was the only reason why we weren't careful about names. That man looked a bit sensitive. No doubt he cares about little details like that. Haha, that guy was really pissing me off. He was probably making fun of me for my pronunciation." Laplace and Footman's feedback was just complaints. But Yuki and Kagali glanced at each other. "What do you think?" Yuki questioned. If he actually wasn't interested, then surely he wouldn't have such a reaction, answered Kagali. But, no, it can't be. Can there really be a coincidence like that? If there are things such as causality, we can't say for certain that there is absolutely no coincidence. Now that you mention it, it may just be. Yes, Demon Lord Leon's goal is most likely that kid named Chloe. It can't be. Yuki was shocked. If they were somehow right about Chloe, then they just accidentally threw away a trump card against Demon Lord Leon. Kagali was more frustrated than Yuki. And if that honestly were the case, then maybe they wouldn't have lost Clayman. She was infuriated by this knowledge. Seeing that her words had inspired such an unexpected possibility, even Tyr couldn't hide her surprise. If their hypothesis turned out to be true, reality seemed all too cruel and unfair for them. Oi, were you joking just now? Are you both serious about what you said? Laplace and Footman were both taken aback. Yuki and Kagali were indeed good at straight-guising, but it wasn't like they were able to foresee everything. Failure didn't matter. They would always come up with a second or third backup plan. They could always calm down and develop a scheme to handle any situation. Laplace knew this all too well, but he genuinely thought the two were stressing too much this time. Footman nodded heavily as well, seemingly in agreement. Regardless, there is still the chance we may be wrong. We can't ignore the possibility at this point, but we also can't say if we're correct for sure, Yuki admitted. I suppose what boss did out of curiosity paid off after all. Cheered Tyr. No, this is no ordinary payoff. This could prove to be a huge bombshell, speculated Laplace. Kagali thought to herself for a bit. You have a point. Although I won't put too much hope in it, it will certainly be interesting if that's how things really turn out. We can utilize this to our advantage if things progress well and let the more difficult demon lords fight among themselves. Perhaps it will help us with our revenge too. Tyr voiced her opinion. It doesn't matter which side wins in the end. Right, we'll just treat this as more playtime. Haha, I still think you guys are just worrying too much, but it's of no loss to us, Footman reassured. Anyway, just don't get your hopes up. Things probably won't go that easily after all. Realizing that everyone was cutting Yuki some slack, Laplace reminded the folks to have some reservations. They were all aware of this, and the conversation came to an end. It was then that Misha had the maid refill everyone's tea. By the way, how are things going on boss's side? Laplace asked after drinking his tea. In response, Yuki took a sip of black tea from his cup and nodded to Laplace. I'm still a bit mindful of the whole thing with Chloe, but I think I will analyze it carefully later. Let's cut to the chase now. A smile broke on his face as he started to recall what he had been up to. While Laplace and the others were busy confronting Demon Lord Leon, Yuki was in the midst of a major engagement. Their contact was some ruler behind the scenes of the Western nations. They were negotiating about how to deal with the aftermath of the mess created by Maribel. As you all know by now, I was acting as if I were manipulated by Maribel. So naturally, she took the fall entirely afterward. Was it the thing boss had to deal with? That's right. Since I was being controlled, there was no way I could just run off to the Eastern Empire. Well, you have a point. That's true. It would definitely be suspicious. By the way, the power of greed was a real gambit when I tried seizing it. But I had the more important goal in mind of killing Maribel. With her out of the picture, it wouldn't seem strange if I roamed freely now. Apart from solidifying my position, I also got to negotiate directly with the great elder Granbell of the Rosso family. Indeed, Yuki's goal had been Maribel. In order to avoid completely losing his foothold in the Western nations, he had to deceive Maribel. The fruits of his labor led to the chaos that happened some time ago. With Maribel taken care of, Yuki was free once again. Even the worst of his misdeeds were ultimately pushed onto Maribel's plate. He simply claimed that they were her orders. Things were going the way that Yuki had planned. Maribel had lost, and Yuki gained even greater power. He also successfully negotiated with Granbell. There was something interesting that he heard during their discussion, which was the reason why he gathered everyone today. Then, let me get to the conclusion first. There is one more job we need to finish before heading east. Everyone seemed to be stunned at the news. Glancing around at his audience, Yuki switched to a more serious expression. Listen up now. I'm going to explain this in detail from the start. After he finished, Yuki began sharing the contents of his meeting with Granbell.